Hello and welcome to Walking the Earth Podcast, the podcast about the travel lifestyle. I'm Justin Castle, calling in from New York City, New York.
And I'm Mike Margulies, calling in today from the hometown of Owings Mills, Maryland. And we've got our guest today is Leon Logothetis. Leon's also in New York at the moment. Leon, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hello.
Hey, it's awesome having you on. Originally, I heard about you from our previous guest, Fraser, who bicycled around the whole world, and your story also amazing. You made your way around the whole world, relying solely on the kindness of other people, and I think that's really kind of amazing and an inspiring story. Really, something that I would just love to hear more about that journey from you.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I used to be a broker in the city of London, and I watched the movie The Motorcycle Diaries. Have you ever seen that?
I've not seen that one.
I haven't seen it either.
You have to watch it. It's if you're travel buffs, it's a very inspiring film. And I watched that movie, and I got inspired to change my life. So to cut a long story short, I quit my job, and I went traveling. And one of the journeys that I took was this journey where I bought a vintage yellow motorbike with a sidecar.
I've seen some nice pictures of that one.
Yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with that thing.
Do you still have it, by the way?
Great.
I do, but I don't turn it on. And yeah, so I traveled from Los Angeles all the way around the world back to Los Angeles, relying on the kindness of strangers, but with a little bit of a twist. And that twist was that unsuspecting good Samaritans, people who helped me tremendously, received something in return.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love the premise of the whole thing, because I kind of, I like to think of the world as this place where, we can be helping one another. And I think your story is just very inspiring in that it's possible. For one thing, it's possible to do what you did. And then also, I've seen some of the clips of the folks who you did give these gifts to, and how you in turn were able to really shape their lives as well and change their lives for the better. And I just find the whole thing to be very inspiring, because I want to be helping people. I think we all do somewhere deep down. We want to do something that helps people. So I think what you're doing is an awesome thing, man.
Thanks. I mean, it was life-changing, not just for the people who I met along the way. It was life-changing for me as well. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They helped me out with much more than I could have given them.
Right.
Yeah. So can you explain some of the logistics of this thing? So you just got gasoline money from people, plane tickets, boat tickets. How did this whole thing? How did this work?
First of all, I couldn't accept money, so you couldn't give me money.
Okay. And you started off with you had no dollars on you, or pounds, or anything. Just
nothing.
Got it. Oh.
And basically, to start with, I did get visas to go to certain countries, so that's what I did do that. But everything else was done through the generosity of people. One of the things I did was before the journey started as well, I spoke to lots of shipping companies, and I asked them if they would help me cross the oceans of the world. And most of them, well, all of them except one said no.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
But all that mattered is that one that said yes.
Right.
And so I crossed the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, with my bike, and it was pretty extraordinary.
Wow.
So that was, you got a company, shipping company, kind of, I guess, sponsored part of the journey there. Were you in were you in the stowage area, or how did you? How was that arranged?
They put me in. They obviously, the bike was in a container,
right?
And they put me in one of the crew bedrooms.
That's
cool.
Amazing.
Did they expect you to do things around the ship? Did you have to participate?
Yeah, I did do some participation.
Right.
swab the deck, peel potatoes, I can imagine.
Exactly. I did do some of that.
Okay.
Did you have to, do some work along the way? I guess you must have, right? If people putting you up, you probably just out of your own volition were kind of helping people out. It seems like in your personality, at least.
Sure. I mean, I would help people out, but didn't really spend too much time in one place.
Right.
Basically, I would spend one night somewhere and then move on.
Gotcha.
Wow. So, so people are literally just filling your tank for you, basically, so you can get to the next destination.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Huh.
That's
Yeah, it's a bit different than what we're used to, right?
yeah. I mean, well, it's different, but at the same time, I could see it happening though, because I've been in situations backpacking around where random strangers help me out. I mean, things. I mean, not to this kind of scale of going around the whole world, but little things like for example, just hitchhiking is a good example. If I remember one time when I was walking across the border from Cambodia into Thailand, and I just literally walked across and then like found a random nice local person that took me.
Right.
I didn't even know exactly where I was going to go, but they let me hop on the back of their bike and they took me around. And and so that is something that you find is, I guess, what's interesting is when in need, people come through. I think is that something you found, Leon?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt, there were so many amazing moments of generosity and kindness, and obviously without that wave of generosity I wouldn't have been able to leave Los Angeles.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have in your travels, you've been across the world, did you notice that generally the kindness was pretty uniform throughout your journeys, or were certain cultures more giving or welcoming than others?
I think really the Americans were very, very giving.
Huh.
Yeah,
really. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, in certain areas, like for example, Eastern Europe, although you do find some wonderful people, sometimes because of their history, being under, let's call it occupation, Soviet occupation. I know that kind of ended a few decades ago, but still, people are a little bit less willing to open themselves.
Okay.
Even though you ultimately do find people that do help,
right?
Maybe it's a little bit harder.
I gotcha. Because I can imagine being on one side of on the other side of the coin, like for example, you're off of 6th Avenue in New York City, and a guy comes up to me asking for something. I'm just trying to get to work. If I'm walking on the street in the city, I can imagine from that perspective, like, who's this guy? I just want to get to work. And then you come up and you'd ask, can you help me? I can see from that perspective, it might be, it's kind of difficult to just open-handedly, at least in New York City, I suppose, to just say, hey, here's some help,
Sure, I found New York to be quite challenging.
Right.
I think it's because of the fast-paced nature of the city.
Right.
But again, ultimately, you find someone. You always find someone. If where there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
And if you're desperate, and you can find someone who has an open heart, it'll all work itself out.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd imagine, like you were saying, you're going to find somebody wherever you are. And did you find any kind of like correlations? I don't know, like, was it easier in places, for example, where people were richer or poorer, or bigger cities or smaller places? Like, were there any patterns to where things were tougher or easier? Or
yeah, there was a pattern, and that was basically the bigger the city, the more challenging it was.
Interesting.
Right.
You go to a small town, and people are generally more open.
Right.
But in big cities, there's a lot more caution.
Right.
People are a lot more wary of others.
Yeah.
Suspecting, I guess.
And I can see that. I mean, I've lived here for a year plus, year and a few months, and I get it. I mean, you're in the city, you're trying to make ends meet, and when you're walking on the street, unlike other places, I'm trying to get to work, or I'm late for a business meeting, or I'm trying to get from A to B. I don't have time to stop and have a long conversation with somebody. So I mean, I can, after having the experience of living here, I can see how it could be hard for someone, and I totally get it.
Yeah, I've always found that something that's been appealing about smaller towns for me is like that exact thing. Like, the ironic thing about a big city is like you're surrounded by so many people, but it just still, you feel more alone in a weird kind of counterintuitive way, you know?
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Walk into a small town, and also you're kind of an oddity. You know, a stranger
right.
walks to
a guy in a yellow motorbikes with a sidecar is in the middle of a small town. They're probably looking around and saying, "What?"
Exactly. So it helps.
Right. Although in New York, they see that and they're like, they just think they probably see crazy things all the time.
Yeah, but you know, the yellow motorbike actually helped everywhere.
I bet it does, right?
Yeah. Little peacocking.
It's a character. It's a character.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you end up like giving people rides in the sidecar? Was that part of like the thing?
Absolutely. The whole point of the sidecar actually was to give people rides, but it was that you never know who will need a helping hand.
Yeah.
Kind of, you never know who's going to.
So you would pick up hitchhikers along the way, kind of thing.
Sometimes, yeah.
That's awesome.
That's nice. That's really nice.
Yeah, it's so cool. I'd love what for you, like in this. So you've had this whole journey, going around the whole world, and you're basically the whole time it's based on giving gifts and receiving gifts, which I love the premise of this. I actually, it reminds me a lot of Burning Man. Have you been to Burning Man, Leon?
I have.
Ah, cool.
Oh, okay. Did that inspire this at all? Because it completely reminds me of Burning Man.
Do you know what? Maybe I did subconsciously, but I didn't consciously think of Burning Man when I thought of it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and for folks who haven't been to Burning Man, who are listening, and Leon, feel free to chime in on it. Like for me, I remember like it was very inspirational in the same way as hearing your story. It was like you're in this environment with this gifting culture, and the whole time there's no money exchanged. The whole thing is just people are giving gifts to other people, and so the whole time you're at Burning Man, no matter where you are, you'll run to random, friendly, awesome people who are giving you something. And you're giving also gifts to people the whole time. And the gifts range from maybe it's little bracelets to maybe someone built an art car or a stage or a movie theater even. And I just remember that was actually how I started my journey. When I quit my job in August 2013, the last thing I did in the US was Burning Man before heading off on my ways to India and traveling. And I remember that just being I remember looking at that and saying, oh, this is the way things should be, you know?
Yeah.
I know it's true. I mean, we get lost in the capitalistic, materialistic world.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all need money. We all need to make money. I guess there's a conscious way of doing that, and there's an unconscious way of doing that.
Right. I have a question. I have a question for you, Leon. Now you were inspired by the movie that you saw, and before that movie, your life sounded really stable. It sounded like Mike's life working for a corporation. My life, I used to work for a major corporation. I decided to switch and work for a smaller one. Now was this just a stagnant, oh my God moment, or was it? Have you traveled a lot before? Did you have a lot of experience with that? Because we've spoken to numerous travelers who have different inspirations, and I think part of Mike, you dipped your toe, and then you had inspiration to you're like, I gotta go. Like Leon, for you, was it like that, or was it just out of the blue?
Yeah, it was a little bit like Mike's. I mean, in the sense that I'd done a little bit of traveling beforehand and kind of got my feet wet, as you said.
Right.
But I would always come back. I would go traveling and be like really inspired, and then come back home and fall into a depression. And I just, it became impossible for me. The way I wanted to live my life wasn't by going to work and sitting there for 16-hour days behind my slab of wood and being uninspired.
Right. Right. I gotcha.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm also interested in the other side of it. So, in addition to what inspired the journey, while you were on the journey, I mean, what to you stands out for like the most inspiring thing that happened or that you learned through this whole thing.
The most inspiring thing that happened, without a shadow of a doubt, was the time that I met this homeless man in Pittsburgh. Yeah. I had no idea he was homeless. I was walking in the park. He didn't look homeless. I started chatting to him, and I asked him whether I could stay with him for the night. And he looked at me and he said, I'm really sorry, but I'm homeless. And, I felt really bad at that moment, because I was like, I just asked a homeless man to stay in his house. I didn't have a house. But I ended up sleeping on the streets with this guy. And I ended up being protected by him during the night. And he taught me a major lesson. He taught me that true wealth is not in our wallets, but it is in our hearts. He was a man who had nothing, yet he gave me some food. He gave me some of his clothes. He just showed tremendous kindness, and I felt truly inspired by him. And he was actually the second person I gave a gift to. In the morning, I took him for a ride on the motorbike, and I offered him an apartment and to send him back to school.
Oh wow!
And now he's he's learning how to become a chef.
Oh, cool!
And he's living in an apartment in Pittsburgh.
Wow,
so
that's
awesome. He's not homeless anymore.
So you changed his life.
Well, you know what? Maybe I did, but he changed mine as well.
Right.
Because he gave me the realization, sometimes you have to really feel it, you have to really experience it.
Right.
He gave me the realization, like I said, that true wealth is in our hearts, not in our wallets.
Did he? Yeah. Does he have family? Like, is he?
Yeah, he has family. I mean, doesn't have any kids or a wife, but he broke up with his wife. That was part of the reason why he ended up on the streets. But he has sisters, he has brothers, and we stay connected. We talk, we text. He's a good man, a really good man.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is incredible, and I would agree with that. I think that true wealth is it's in you, who you are as a person. Actually, I was reading an article just yesterday that I can think relates to this. It's a study they did for 75 years on. They were following a group of men for 75 years and seeing what makes people happy, and like the conclusion was basically happiness is love. And it's the people that were happiest are the people who had loving relationships in their lives, and it wasn't about and I really like that, because I don't and they also had made correlations, of course, to there were correlations. The people who had happy relationships were healthier and happened to also become wealthier as well, and these kind of all tie together. But I do like this. I do think it's not about how much money you have. It's
right.
It's what is your that internally, are you a loving person and caring, and that I think is what true wealth is. I would say I agree with you, man.
Yeah. Which article was that? I think I might have read that a while back. Was that Harvard or Princeton or Stanford?
I think so. I don't remember the name of the article, but I'll tell you what, I will dig it up, and I can certainly post a link with the episode notes for this show for folks who want to read that article. But it relates to Leon. You and I both had a very similar experience where I had a job where I was making a lot of money, and I found ultimately that for me, in that alone, and there's nothing wrong, with having making money and doing these things. It's all part of what keeps the world moving, But I think that's not the end goal. I would say is just accruing more of that sort of wealth. I think it's finding a way that, at least for me, I think for me the real thing that'll get me going is finding a way to do something in this world that I'm compassionate about, and something that helps people.
Right. That affects people.
Yeah.
I think so. I think I'm the same way too. I want to affect people in a positive way, and I think that's part of this podcast. I think that's part of maybe, I don't know, Leon, if this is. It sounds like it's a huge motivation of what you're doing too.
Absolutely. It's about sharing my life with others and showing them that if I can go out and live my dreams, then why can't you?
Right.
Yes.
And what's really interesting is Mike said he read your article, the article about you that was posted. Mike, which one was that?
It was in Forbes.
Right.
Was the one I read, yeah.
And I read that too. And what was really compelling to me was the guy that you met. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but the guy he said he spoke to you he read the book and he felt incredibly inspired by your book. And that really struck me, that the person writing this article felt so connected to it and felt so emotionally connected to it. And then he said when he spoke to you, he just felt this energy, and that was really incredible. What was it like having the conversation? Just sounded like a very deep, like you guys connected.
Yeah, no, we definitely did. And it's always an honor when people read my book and feel moved by it. I've read many books and used books to inspire myself, and it's wonderful feeling to think that possibly my book inspired him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. And that book, I guess by the time it's not out yet, but by the time this podcast, at least as of the recording of this, but by the time this podcast is posted, it will be out. So folks, we'll just put it by the way here. It's called the Kindness Diaries, and that'll be out. We'll mention that also at the end when we close things down here, but that's where you can find it. And that's kind of, the book is sort of the story of your journey, more or less.
Basically, it's the story of my journey, and it's also a memoir, let's say. So, you have my journey, and then you have why I took the journey, how I was feeling on the journey, the people that inspired me to take my journey, all this kind of stuff. It's kind of an adventure travel memoir.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
And I guess it sounds like a big part of what you're doing is it's meant to kind of inspire others to go on their journeys, yeah?
Absolutely. And, like I said, I've done a lot of reading and I've been inspired by books. And sometimes books and movies really can change your life. And
yes.
Motorcycle Diaries changed my life. Lots of books have changed my life as well.
Yeah.
And it's I just put my heart and soul into writing the book,
right?
And I laid it out on the line. This is who I am, and some people may like who I am, some people may not, but that's part of life as well.
Yeah, well, this idea of the individual journey, this comes up a lot on this show, and I think what you're saying is dead on, man. Some people will relate, some people might not, but I think I think every single person has, we all have an individual journey. And some people, you're going to hear about someone's journey, and you might be inspired by, say, something that they'll read your book, Leon, say they're really inspired, and then they're going to go and do some completely other thing, but because everyone's going to take, as an individual, right? We all have our own very individual journey, but in as much as that we can use our, as much as I can use my journey, for example, to positively try to help others or inspire them, I think that's a good thing. And I think what you're doing, Leon, all the same, it's like that's a great thing to be able to use your journey to help inspire people in whatever way they may take it, inspire them in their own journey.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You know what? I must say that from Leon, I think my Motorcycle Diaries was a couple of things, and now I'm in New York City. I'm taking comedy classes, and I'm loving it. And one of the things that inspired me was I saw a movie about Jerry Seinfeld. He did a documentary when he was he threw away all of his comedy material and started fresh, and they documented that whole thing of the process of him getting back into it, and that inspired me. But there's another really great book. It's the autobiography of Miles Davis. It talks about his life, and that really he moved from the Midwest United States to New York City because he knew to be the best, you got to play with the best, and he did it. He didn't, he just up and did it despite family and his life situation, and that was kind of my motorcycle Diaries, I suppose, you know? Made me reflect. Mike, do you have one? Do you have a Motorcycle Diaries?
What's something that inspired me?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's any specific book, but for me, it's been just experiences. It was when I went out before I took this, quit my job to travel for a long term. It was just going out and meeting other when I was on vacations, for example, meeting other travelers and people that were living that way, and that was a big thing that inspired me, was just meeting travelers, really.
Yeah.
And like I was mentioning, Burning Man as well was another one.
Yeah. I gotcha.
Yeah. So what's I guess, Leon, what's next for you? You had this journey. You've got the book coming out, but like kind of in your journey of life though, what's your next thing?
It's a good question. I'm doing this book tour, so I'm going from New York to LA, stopping off in like 15 cities, driving through America, which I always love doing.
Oh, cool.
On the same yellow motorbike.
Oh, please don't talk to me about that yellow motorbike. Honestly, I really do love that yellow motorbike because it got me around the world, but I really do hate it as well. Because every morning I'd be like, "Are you going to start?" And, it's a 1978 bike, so it's 1 year younger than I am, and it had its moments. It really had its moments, and the moments weren't good.
Yeah.
So yeah, my
relationship, I see.
Yeah, exactly. Completely. My next moves, always trying to think of new adventurous travels and to create travels that inspire and that inspire people to go out and live their lives fully.
Awesome.
Very
so
cool.
continue on that same theme. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's good, man. I think that's a really good calling in life. I think the world needs more kind of inspirational people.
Definitely.
I think that's more than needs successful, wealthy, rich, money-wise people. It means inspirational and people.
I agree. You inspired a question. I wanted to ask you this. So, in thinking back and writing this book and getting everything, your memoir together, etc., I did an exercise when I was in school. I took a psychology class, and they made us write 60 pages about ourselves and how we became the person that we've become, and it basically surfaced all these memories that I couldn't believe and that I did. I was like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Are there any of these I can't believe moments that surfaced when you were writing your novel or writing your book that you're like, wow, I can't believe I did that? Wow, that's.
Well, I must tell you, it's really my whole life. Like, I can't believe that I've actually managed to find my way out of the corporate world and into this life where I'm traveling the world, connecting with people, having adventures, driving yellow motorbikes, just doing what I always wanted to do. As a kid, I used to want to be this adventurous, like Tintin. and I never thought that it was really possible, and it is. And everyone can be that Tintin. Everyone has that Tintin inside them, right. Whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be an adventurous spirit. It could be anything.
Right.
We only have one shot at this life, and we should make the most of it. I know that's a cliche, but it's also true.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's very true, man. I mean, you preach to the choir for me, at least. I couldn't agree more. We have our most valuable commodity in life is our time, and it's like, how do we spend that time? How do we want to do it? I guess, along the lines of that thought, I'll ask you the question that we ask all of our guests, actually. So we do. We lied to you a little bit when we in the pre-interview when we said there's no prepared questions. One thing we like to one thing we ask is, what is something for you, Leon, that you haven't already done that you want to do in your life?
That's a good question. Well, look, there's lots of places that I'd like to visit. But on a bigger level, you know, I'd like to really inspire as many people as I can. You know, I do have a platform, but the platform can always be enlarged, and I want to really I do public speaking, but I'd like to take that public speaking to another level, whereby I can inspire as many people as humanly possible.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's a great thing, man. And I think you're doing it, and I think you are. And and along that, you know, trying to reach more people, we'd love to help you grow that audience. I mean, where's the best place we can find you? Is it Facebook, Twitter? Where do you want to kind of navigate people toward?
Yeah, people can find me on Facebook. They can go onto my website, which is leonlogothetis.com. I know that's very difficult to spell.
Logothetis, but we'll link up, actually in the show notes, we will link up to all the ways to find you.
Yeah, and if you just start typing it into Google, it pulls them up pretty quickly. So just put my name into Google and I've done it.
So you've got leonlogothetis.com. You've got a Facebook. Is it just Leon Logothetis as your Facebook page?
Yep.
And Twitter.
Twitter
is it's your handle there at Leon Logothetis.
Do you know what? That is an excellent question. I think it is at Leon Logothetis.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we can confirm that. In any event, though, like I was saying, I'll make sure I'll compile all the different your social media and website and everything. And folks that want to find you, you can go to WTEpodcast.com, and at our website there, you'll find the posting for this episode, and I'll have notes that have all the different ways you can find Leon. We'll also link up to your book, the Kindness Diaries, for folks that want to read that and be inspired from the written form of it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, we want to say thank you. Thank you very much for coming on, Leon.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is really, it is inspiring to hear the story, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Well, for now, this is Justin Castle in New York.
And this is Mike Margulies in Owings Mills, Maryland.
And signing off for Walking the Earth podcast. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
Peace.
Next time on Walking the Earth podcast, Mike and I have a conversation with travel blogger Larissa Olenikoff, known to her followers as the Blonde Gypsy. She shares her experiences traveling for the past 10 years and her particular love for the Balkans. So check that out online at WTEpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Stitcher, iTunes, and SoundCloud. And share your love on Twitter at WTE Podcasts.